Hello, welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Fidelia Aguncha. President Muhammadu Buhari has assured Nigerians that his government is working to capture the perpetrators and sponsors of kidnappings and killings in the country. While delivering his speech in celebration of Democracy Day, the president pledged to ensure the quick resettlement of persons displaced by the insurgency, which has lasted over 9 years. President Buhari also reiterated his government's commitment to ensuring the rehabilitation and de-radicalization of insurgents who willingly surrendered their arms to the Nigerian military. He also disclosed that the Nigerian military has rescued at least 16,000 persons from Boko Haram insurgents within the last 3 years.
Public safety and security remains the primary duty of this government. Before this administration came into being 3 years ago, Boko Haram held large areas of land spanning several local governments in the northeast. Today, the capacity of the insurgents has been degraded, leading to the re-establishment of authority of government and the release of captives, including happily 106 Chibok and 104 deputy girls and over 16,000 other persons held by Boko Haram. In order to minimize the impact of the insurgency on internally displaced persons, government has established secure IDP camps and has improved the mechanism for the distribution of basic aid, foods, and essential commodities using various strategies in collaboration with local and international organizations. Efforts are in process for resettlement of IDPs in their home communities by providing schools, hospitals, clinics, water, and sanitation to facilitate a quick return to economic activities. Government is similarly implementing de-radicalization and rehabilitation programs to facilitate sustainable peace and development. The unfortunate incidences of kidnappings, herdsmen and farmers' clashes in several communities, which have led to high number of fatalities and loss of properties across the country, is being addressed, and the identified culprits and their sponsors shall be made to face the full wrath of the law. All the 3 tiers of government are presently engaged with communities and religious organizations to restore peaceful coexistence among Nigerians.
In a related development, President Muhammadu Buhari had earlier delivered a speech at a lecture in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. In his address at the event, which was attended by various political stakeholders, President Buhari restated his commitment to ensuring the development of Nigeria. The president also assured that he is working to resolve all insecurity issues in the country.
President Muhammadu Buhari and Senate President Bukola Saraki, as some of the top political office holders in the country, gathered here in Nigeria's federal capital of Abuja for a lecture which is part of activities to mark the 2018 Democracy Day. The president is one of the key speakers at the event. He uses the opportunity to restate his commitment to ensuring the development of Nigeria.
While we grieve with our compatriots who have lost relatives and properties, we are unrelenting in equipping and preparing our troops to confront the agents of violence who have been engaging in banditry and reckless killings in various parts of the country under whatever guise until total victory is achieved. Again, it is pertinent to note that insurgency and terrorism are worldwide phenomena affecting even the best policed nations. Our economy is on the mend. We have achieved a good number of our set objectives, notably increased food production and food security, increased economic diversification into sectors that were hitherto neglected or underexplored. Our foreign reserves have reached new heights, and the outcome in respect of investment in infrastructure expansion are manifest everywhere. Overall, we are on track. I thank all and commend all who have worked so hard with us to achieve these successes.
After the president's speech, the leaders of Nigeria's parliament took turns to address the gathering, both warning that everything be done to sustain the country's democracy.
If you look at the concept of democracy from the loose definition, but very short, given by Abraham Lincoln, the government of the people, by the people, for the people, it doesn't begin to make sense until you know the essence of this government of the people, which is embedded in the declaration of the American independence. We talk about, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men are created equal. And they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There are not many countries that have so much diversity, whether ethnic, religious, or so, have come together as a country with a population of over 170 million to still stay together, to still practice democracy for 19 years. It's a great achievement, and we should be proud that we've been able to do that. I say that because we're always so quick to just look at the negative things and also bring out the faults. I think when we achieve things as a nation, we should be proud of that. Let me, as we do that, also acknowledge those who have made sacrifices. Those who have made sacrifices, ultimate sacrifices for us to be here today. Because we will not be here today even for those who have made those sacrifices. So at that point as well, we that are here now also have a responsibility to ensure that we also leave a legacy for those who are coming behind.
Democracy Day in Nigeria is usually celebrated yearly on May 29 to mark the restoration of democracy in May 1999 after decades of military rule. Nigerian leaders usually use the occasion to enumerate the strides recorded in the democratic surge and achievement by the administrations.
Moving away from that now, global watchdog Transparency International is again accusing the Nigerian government of alleged corrupt practices. In a report published on Monday, the anti-graft body accused the Nigerian government of looting $670 million in the guise of security votes. Security votes are funds that are disbursed to the country's 36 states to deal with various security issues. The group wants the law abolished.
In its 3 years in power, the Nigerian government has insisted that its anti-graft war is one of the key battles which has recorded tremendous progress. One group is now challenging that notion. The anti-corruption group Transparency International is accusing Nigerian government officials of looting $670 million through a so-called security vote. Security votes are funds allocated to state governors to tackle security challenges in their states. The use of such funds is said to be usually unaccounted for. The group is also alleging that $15 billion was stolen from Nigeria's defense sector by former military chiefs. They are now advocating a federal legislation which outlaws security votes across all tiers of government.
This abuse of public funds, this secretive use of public funds, this misappropriation of public funds, we believe that there must be a law clearly spelling out the banning of this misuse of public funds, because they are not actually used to complement the effort of security architecture in the country. It is funds that are being used for all sorts of kinds of political patronage. It is money that is being used to build individual financial empire. It is money that is being used to even create ethnic militia. It is money that is being used to do all sorts of things that has nothing to do with, adding value for security in the country.
There is a trust deficit in Nigeria today. There is a trust deficit between citizens and security actors. There's a trust deficit within the command structures of our security agencies. And there is a trust deficit between security bodies themselves. Together with other recent reports, for instance that of NOPRIN, which looks into Nigerian police force budgeting and planning, we get a unique insight into the financial inadequacies and corruption risks that sit at the center of the weakness of Nigeria's security sector. But as I said, I do believe that there is reason for hope. Nigeria and Nigerians have the solutions. More than any other country that I've had the privilege of working in, the level of capacity, of understanding, of articulated solutions is higher here than anywhere else.
Fiscal accountability is not an easy sell. However, it is a sell that needs to be made. And the technicalities and the approaches need to be reviewed to suit the context. I'm one person that believes that we cannot import hook, line, and sinker. We need to look at our own we need to look at our own architecture and see how we would make progress. If it has to be faced, let it be faced. But let us know that it is being faced, and these are the steps we're taking the first 2 years. We're consolidating third, fourth year, and we are going to arrive at where we are going.
The Special Advisor to the Senate President on Security Intelligence, Major General Salim Maina, assured the legislature will look into the issue.
I assure you all that the recommendations will be studied and turned into policies for strict implementation. I assure you, you can be assured of the maximum support of the Senate and indeed that of the National Assembly under my chairmanship in order to achieve our common objectives.
The report comes as President Muhammadu Buhari prepares to run for a second term in office. He is built his first term on the foundation of anti-corruption war, which it says has ruined the nation in the past.
That derogatory report by Amnesty International against the Nigerian military is already attracting interest from other human rights agencies. Now, Global Amnesty Watch, an international body that monitors human rights issues, is the latest body to react to the report by Amnesty International. The body says it is difficult to rely on the report released by Amnesty International as a basis to evaluate the Nigerian military's activities in the northeast of the country.
Security experts, policy analysts, civil society groups and the media are here at the International Conference Center, Abuja, to analyze accusations of violations of human rights against the Nigerian military by Amnesty International. After review of the issues and carrying out their own independent findings, the Global Amnesty Watch says the military is still within the rules of engagement as it battles terrorists in the northeast of Nigeria.
To be reported, it's pretty simple. I don't think the army has anything to hide, so I don't think it's a problem that anything is reported. But from what I have seen when I have been on the ground in various places, I haven't seen anything that is inappropriate since we're dealing with a war on terror. It's very difficult to make proper assessments unless you have been on the ground. Relying on third-party sources is very questionable. I would say that if advocacy groups want to be efficient, they need to go on the ground themselves and get a clear picture of what's happening, rather than relying on third-party sources. That said, there might be elements of what's been reported to us that are completely correct. Again, that said, it doesn't make it necessarily wrong for the army to clamp down on insurgents that are killing civilians. After all, this is a country that is, should be peaceful. Boko Haram is not here to help you. They are here to destabilize you. They're harming your economy. They're preventing kids from going to school. That should be the focus. This is not about the bad guys. The focus that has been, put on atrocities on Boko Haram, I think is rather irrelevant, actually.
Speakers at the event say Amnesty International may have shifted its focus from real war against terrorism to less relevant issues of rights for terrorists. They want more support from the people and the international agencies for the military to pull the war against terrorism to final rest.
A terrible paper was written against Nigeria. I was in the foreign service. So we rushed to the French press. They said, no, Oga, you have something to write against France? We said, yes. They said, no, go to your country and write it. The French press will not write anything against the nation of France. But our press, you want to destabilize Nigeria, pay a journalist. You want to talk something about the military, pay a journalist. We need to come together. The press, the cleaner, the lecturer, the honorable, defend the interests of Nigeria. We need to be serious. The army cannot safeguard the country against the system when it does not have support. Total support must be given to our armed forces against Boko Haram and other threats.
I don't want to be very specific about the details of what Amnesty International has reeled out as their report, but we want to be very clear on one point, that Nigeria, and especially the armed forces of Nigeria, are completely misrepresented by that report. We have just been discussing in the last few minutes about the dividing line between what constitutes abuse to the fundamental human rights of citizens and criminality. I don't see any reason why somebody who is a terrorist, who has set up a structure to destroy human life, should be the one that should be on top of the index of human rights protection. They are totally unsubstantiated claims by most of these reports. Some of these things are bogus claims that have not been substantiated, and we must be very careful as a people not to be gullible. There is a third force, certainly, that is behind some of these reports.
Global Amnesty Watch wants the core issue of terrorism against the Nigerian people to be the focus of assessment and what the military has achieved so far, rather than other issues which Amnesty International is emphasizing.
To the health sector now, the Ministry of Health, Isaac Adewale, has ordered the governing boards of federal tertiary health institutions to organize emergency meetings of boards and order the striking health workers to resume duty. As contained in a press statement by the Director of Media and Public Relations, Boade Akinola, Adewale had consulted an emergency meeting with the medical directors and chief medical directors of tertiary hospitals to assess the condition of the service being rendered at the various health institutions in view of the ongoing strike. The statement stated that anyone who fails to return to work after the directives of the governing boards would be considered to have absconded from duty without leave. Meanwhile, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, have announced that the direct entry application, which began in December 2017, is set to close on June 4th. According to the board's head of media, Fabian Benjamin, over 140,000 candidates have so far obtained the forms online. He said that the closure became necessary in order to avail the board the time to plan ahead for the 2018 admission process into various institutions. Now, similarly, Benjamin added that the board has released the results of the mop-up examination conducted for candidates who were rescheduled for the UTME on Saturday, May 26. Let's now look at the world of business with Esther Vasey, coming up right after this break.
Corruption not in my country.
Now, yeah?
Yes, Oga.
Okay.
Where I go come find 300 naira change?
I better try look for change now. Don't they do business? Hey, Timmy. I did, bro. I be. I beg, give me 200 naira. Make I take sort out this guy. If let's say no get change.
Take it, give us.
I said 200.
Give her 100 naira.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree to pay 200 naira.
How much you think they carry people from that place we carry on the chair?
Okay.
Why they touch me?
Now 100 naira. he agreed to pay.
Because that was what you said was the fair.
Why
you
not go pay you?
Why you dey extort your customer? You see this corruption wey we dey hear for news, they see for people everywhere. Now be this so. This is corruption, not in our country.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
I am Esther Vese. Welcome to Business News. President Muhammadu Buhari has reiterated that the implementation of the Treasury Single Account TSA has stopped the pilfering of the country's treasury, with billions of naira saved from maintenance fee payable to banks. He added that the Treasury Single Account has helped save at least 200 billion naira. Meanwhile, the whistleblower policy set up by the Nigerian government to quicken the recovery of illicit funds yielded the recovery of 500 billion naira. This was disclosed by President Muhammadu Buhari in his Democracy Day speech on Tuesday. The president also disclosed that the Presidential Initiative on Continuous Audit, which was set up with a mandate to validate controls, assess risks, prune personnel costs, and ensure compliance with public financial management reforms, has helped to identify and remove over 52,000 ghost workers from the federal government MDA's payroll.
Various policy measures already put in place to stem the tide of corrupt practices are yielding remarkable results. Some of these key reform policies include: A. The Treasury Single Account has realized billions of naira being saved from maintenance fee payable to banks. 200 billion naira has also been saved from elimination of ghost workers in public service. B. The whistleblowing policy has helped to recover over 500 billion naira. C. The Prudential Initiative of Continuous Audit set up was amended to validate controls, assess risks, prune personnel costs, ensure compliance with public financial management reforms, has helped to identify and remove over 52,000 ghost workers from the federal government MDS payroll. The Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, aimed at expanding tax education and awareness, has offered the opportunity for tax defaulters to regularize their status in order to enjoy the amnesty of forgiveness on overdue interest, penalties, and the assurance of non-prosecution or subject to tax investigations. The Sovereign Wealth Fund project portfolio has been expanded with an injection of 650 million United States dollars so as to strengthen its investments in local infrastructure, power, health, reconstruction of Abuja-Kano Road, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, East-West Road, and the Mambila Hydroelectric Power Project, as well as the construction of the second Niger Bridge.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, is insisting that the Muhammadu Buhari-led administration has kept most of its promises to Nigerians. The minister made the assertion at the press conference to mark the third-year anniversary of the Buhari administration. He said the administration is already making efforts to put the nation on the path of sustainable growth and development, diversifying the economy, tackling corruption, and devising creative measures to secure lives and property.
In just 3 years, the Buhari administration has taken power generation to an all-time high of 7,000 megawatts from the 2,690 or 2,690 megawatts which we inherited. In just 3 years, the Buhari administration has taken distributable power to an all-time high of 5,000 megawatts. In just 3 years, this administration has moved Nigeria closer to self-sufficiency in rice, more than any administration before it. It's just 2 years away from meeting its target production of 6 million metric tons of milled rice, meeting Nigeria's consumption. In just 3 years, this administration has increased the number of rice farmers from 5 million to an all-high over 11 million. In just 3 years, this administration has cut Nigeria's rice import bill of $1.6 billion annually by 90%, from 644,000 metric tons annually to 24,000 metric tons annually. In just 3 years, this administration has slashed leakages in government spending that made corruption possible, thanks to the diligent implementation of the Treasury Single Account, TSA, and the hugely successful whistleblower policy. In just 3 years, this administration is feeding 8.2 million pupils in 45,394 schools in 24 states of the Federation, employing 87,261 cooks in the process. In just 3 years, this administration is paying conditional cash transfer of 5,000 monthly to 297,973 poorest and most vulnerable households. In just 3 years, this administration has delivered 10 million 50 kilogram bags of fertilizer at a low price of 5,500 for 2017 alone. The country now has annual savings of US $200 million in foreign exchange and 60 billion naira annually in budgetary provisions for fertilizer subsidies.
Oil prices were mixed in Asian trading on Tuesday, but remained under pressure on expectations that Saudi Arabia and Russia will pump more crude to ease a potential shortfall in supply. The Brent crude futures were up 21 cents at $75.51 a barrel after settling at their lowest since May 8 at $75.30 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate as WTI crude was down $1.11 at $66.77 a barrel, sitting around its lowest since April 17. Meanwhile, the record crude oil volumes from the United States are expected to head to Asia in the coming months, nibbling away the market share of OPEC and Russia. U.S. oil production has surged by more than 27% in the last 2 years to 10.73 million barrels per day, and that puts the United States ahead of top exporter Saudi Arabia. Now, only Russia pumps out more at around 11 million barrels per day. And that's all on business news. We'll take a short break and Fidelia will be right back with the rest of the news. Stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
Madam. Madam, welcome. Okay, madam, no worry. When you deliver the balance, we'll give you the goods.
No problem, no problem. All right, so now well done.
Thank you. Hey, Oga, I still say she don't bring money. Maybe we use this one for him now.
She wants mahogany, not white wood.
Oga, our work now to join wood together, deliver whatever to customer. Put the remaining profit for pocket.
This is corruption, not in my country. Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Welcome back. Moving to international scene now, at least 47 people have died after storms and lightning struck across a swath of northern India. This is the latest death from freak weather that has battered the country this month. Now, according to the disaster management officials in the region, a combined total of 47 people had died in overnight storms across states. Bihar was the worst hit, pounded by strong winds and thunderbolts. Nearly 200 people have died in Uttar Pradesh this month alone as strong winds and sandstorm brought down walls and electricity poles. A man has shot dead 2 female police officers and a civilian in the eastern Belgian city of Liège. The gunman also took a female cleaner hostage at a school before being killed by police, injuring 2 other police officials. Now, the motive behind his attack is still unknown, but the incident is being treated as terrorism. According to reports, the gunman was let out from prison on temporary release on Monday, where he had been serving time on drug offenses. It's said that he may have been radicalized while in jail. On to sports now. The Super Eagles of Nigeria will depart the country on Wednesday aboard a chartered flight to London for Saturday's international friendly against England at the Wembley Stadium. The Eagles are seeking Nigeria's first win against England after losing 1-0 in 1995 and playing a 0-0 draw with the Three Lions at the 2002 FIFA World Cup in Korea and Japan. The 2013 African champions, who played a 1-1 draw with DR Congo on Monday's pre-World Cup friendly game, will leave Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Abuja on Tuesday. They are expected to meet with President Muhammadu Buhari before departing for the UK. Former Chelsea midfielder Frank Lampard has been backed as the right man to push Derby into the Premier League. The Chelsea and England legend has held talks with the Rams as the Championship club look for a replacement for Gary Rowett, who has taken over at Stoke. Now, the board will meet today to make a final decision, with Lampard facing competition from Brentford boss Dean Smith and Preston's Alex Neil. Russian Jewish billionaire and Chelsea Football Club owner Roman Abramovich arrived in Israel on Monday after receiving citizenship of the Jewish state. Abramovich had applied for an immigration visa at Israel's embassy in Moscow. The billionaire formerly has residency in Jersey in the Channel Islands, a tax haven, but has never taken it up. Now, the Sunday Times put his wealth at £9.3 billion. He has owned Chelsea since 2003. For that, it's on News Now. Do log on to our website at www.tv360nigeria.com to get news updates and watch more of our programs. You can also watch us on Facebook at facebook.com/TV360online and on Twitter at twitter.com/TV360Nigeria. We are also live on YouTube at youtube.com/TV360Nigeria and on Google Plus, and our handle is TV360Nigeria. Thank you so much for watching. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Bye for now.